All right, we're recording. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Hangout with Mentors. We show up here every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Different topic every evening, and it is recorded. So the intention is to provide value-based, bite-sized pieces of conversation topic that you can put straight into action in your life and your business, hopefully both, immediately. And we discuss it conversation style to add inputs and different angles, dynamically add that. It just adds a different level of value for you. So that's what we're all about. And I'm Susan Bachelder. I am here with Rob Hanley and Jim Young tonight on the panel. Thanks for coming out. Our topic tonight is interesting. We've touched on it a few different angles, but especially the last few weeks, maybe the last month, I've gotten a lot of questions that led me to want to talk about this topic. And before we dig into it, and I'm only going to take about 5 minutes on it, but it is really important and thought-provoking, and I want to give you a couple of specific tools. But we have discussed right here on this platform in Hangout with Mentors, daily method of operation, what are money-making activities. There was one specifically on focus. There's actually a long list, and maybe if everybody's interested, maybe everything that has to do with that, because it would be beneficial to put them all together, maybe I should package them all on one page. And this has a lot to do with that. So here's the angle that I'm coming from. Sometimes there's so much learning content, or some of us just love to read. I could curl up with a book all day long. I love reading and I'm curious. So my curiosity sometimes will lead me off in this direction. Oh, I wonder about this. I wonder about this. And I could explore and just research for a really long time, but that might take me away from my productivity of the day, right? So we have to kind of prioritize that. So that's that angle. But there's also the angle of you could come into maybe you're starting your business, just starting your business, or changing angles or something. And there could be so much content to learn. And that happens in this community sometimes. There's so many events and so much new information that you could feel inundated or overwhelmed with just too much stuff, too much learning. And you could sit attending events and listening to recordings and then reading books and think that you need to be present and learn all of this stuff. But the learning itself does not lead to productivity. The learning itself does not make sales. The learning itself doesn't put you into action. So what do we do at that point? And how do we decide what pieces are important to learn? Because what's important for me to learn might not be the same kind of priorities or necessities for Rob to be learning, or for Jim. And interestingly enough, the three of us on the panel, we didn't just fall off the turnip truck. We've been around the block a few times, and we each come with different experience, etc. But all three of us, you're going to find out that we all have something very much in common. The three of us here that you see on the panel are always learning. We're always learning. But the other thing that we have in common is we're also always doing. And we're always creating results. So it's really cool. I think the universe can you say that word?
Serendipity.
Yeah. It did that again, because just as I was coming, like kind of setting the platform for that, I realized it is kind of cool, the three of us, because we do have those things in common. We're always producing, we're always taking action, but we're also always learning. So that's the cool. So how do you manage your business and personal growth? How do you not get stuck in the learning curve or feel inundated like you have to learn everything all at once? And we don't. So the first strategy that I would love to give you, and then I'm going to hand it over to Rob and Jim to add to that, or add their own strategies or comment on mine. But the first strategy that I try to give every new member or person that I work with is make a list, make a few lists actually. But the first list is your list of accomplishments. Be aware of what you've already achieved and be aware of your strengths. Now, some people say, what does that have to do with anything? Well, choosing your effective or most productive daily method of operation or managing your growth always has to do with your self-awareness. So being aware of where you are and what you really need to learn and grow with will help you make better decisions. Seems like a simple thing, but it's a really powerful thing. And some people will say, well, I can only fill up half a page. But once you get working on it, and for some people, I actually insist that they add 2 things every day, because we've accomplished way more in our life than we realize. And it goes back to the amazing accomplishment of learning how to coordinate, holding a spoon in our hands and feeding ourselves.
Sorry.
Like, those are accomplishments, right?
Yeah.
So all of these things, we had determination, we had patience with ourselves, we had to learn these things. And that's just a real cool, powerful strategy. Then maybe make a list of the things that you're dying to learn, that you're curious to learn. And that third list might be, what could I learn right now? What strategy, what technique, what piece of knowledge could I learn right now that would benefit the productivity in my business the most? And then maybe make a prioritized list. So that's the big guns of what I got. Over to you, Rob. What are your thoughts?
So, I think that productivity and getting stuff done is the primary thing when you're self-employed. Agreed. I mean, this is what
Discipline.
Discipline. So it's almost around, and I don't even know that it actually is so much around discipline as discipline. I mean, as the core focus. I see discipline is something that you would say is maybe a means to how you're going to get there, but ultimately what it's all about is, how do I be more productive? How do I get more done faster and easier, more effectively, better than before? And one of the kind of the jokes almost within our industry, maybe it's with all entrepreneurs, but it's very prevalent within anybody that's involved in network marketing, home-based business, internet marketing. It's countless times that you hear somebody say, my ADD. So I don't like to box things, but I mean, or to put labels on things, but I think that's very true. So we do joke around and we say squirrel. Now, if you don't know what that means, you probably do know what that means when we say the word squirrel. So what it means, obviously, we're working on something and then we're easily distracted to something else. Facebook, for example. It's interesting. I know that you, for example, Susan, you do a lot of marketing on Facebook. You do a lot of posting and things like that. You have to go into Facebook with intention, and probably even in terms of discipline, you got to go in with like a time frame. Like I'm going to do social media, and this is exactly what I'm going to accomplish from this time until this time, because I will easily get distracted on people's posts. Sometimes I'll wander into videos, and then Facebook, especially on your phone, once you watch one video, it automatically brings up the next interesting one. And before I know it, like 45 minutes or an hour is gone. It's gone. It's like you're hypnotized or something like that. Like, whoa, like, oh my God, I just woke up. So, in terms of managing kind of what you do, what I try to find that I do, like this morning, I was doing some reading, and as I was reading, I had, multiple thoughts pop into my mind. Like, oh, I should go, I'm reading something and all of a sudden pops into my mind, I should go check Instagram. I'm on my phone. It's like, I already have the app open. I could click and switch over, right? Or I should do this. Or what about a Google search? There's a book. I ordered a book on Amazon today, and the book name popped into my mind while I was reading. It wasn't even related. It was kind of, it's just how my brain works sometimes. So there's a book called Getting Things Done, which ironically, I think I read about the first half of a chapter on it, and then I put it down. I do finish books. I have to tell myself sometimes, no, I can't stay on task. I I got a degree in computer engineering that doesn't just happen by accident. You have to be focused on things. And but in the book, what I did get out of the book, Getting Things Done, he talks specifically about ADD. And what he talks about is you need to keep a pad of paper, and as thoughts pop in your mind, you need to unload those. And so you write things down. So if you have a thought that pops in your mind, you write it down. You're not going to go, so I decided, well, I'm not going to go check my Instagram right now, as this thought of this book popped into my mind. Instead of thinking, oh, I should do a quick Google search for that, right, to see what it is, because that would take me into. So instead, I wrote that down. I wrote down a couple of other tasks that I thought about. Oh, this is one of the things that I need to get done today. And then what I did is I said, no, I'm going to stay on task right now. I set this time aside to get this amount of reading done. It was in the morning, and I'm going to get this amount done. And I'm not going to do anything else, actually, until, now, I will say, if somebody was calling me with money or sale or something like that, there is a fine line in that I will draw, you get it when you can get it. So, but other than the house being on fire, somebody calling me up saying, I'm trying to send you money or something like that, or maybe even somebody in our group saying, hey, can you do a 3-way? I make those things really valuable. They might have also said, hey, when will you have time? But other than that, I want to stay focused on what I'm doing and then come back later. So that's kind of my first thought in terms of my formula for productivity and getting things done. I actually don't do this currently right now. So this is a little bit of an example of do what I say, not what I do. But I used to I read somewhere in a book, and it talked about the Pareto Principle. I know both you guys, I'm sure, know the Pareto Principle, but for somebody that may not know what the Pareto, he was some kind of Italian mathematician or something like that, or whatever it was. But the principle, Pareto Principle, is that it's called the 80-20 rule. It's what most people know it as an 80-20 rule. And what it is, it applies to most everything. 20% of the people make 80% of the money. It's probably even more. It's probably 5% make 95% or something like that. But 80% of the people make 20% of the money and whatnot. So in terms of tasks, what I want to do is, my purpose is pretty simple as being an entrepreneur. I want to make as much money as I possibly can. I want to do it in as short a period as I possibly can. I want to have it be as easy to come in as I possibly can have it. And I want it to last, got the hiccups. I want it to last as long as it possibly can. So I know the tasks and things that I have to do. And so what I will do is maybe I write all these down. After you kind of go through the first iteration, you develop a task list that's a 20% task and 80% tasks. So, I've heard all kinds of different formulas where some people say start with the hardest things first, the things that you don't want to do so that you can get going. Other people say, what you want to do is the easiest thing so that you can start to build momentum that I'm getting things done. But, organizing my desk and stuff like that, it doesn't make me any money of any kind whatsoever. It makes us feel like maybe we're doing something, but we're busy doing nothing. So you organize your task into the 20%. Who do I got to follow up with? What do I got to do? Do I have any leads coming in? Do I have anything I got to get some advertising going? That would probably be your top priority overall to do. And then things like organizing your desk and, whatever, all of that kind of stuff falls by the wayside. And so as you're doing one task as much as you can, coming back to discipline, as you do one task really at a time. It is a major challenge for me because my brain works 100 times faster than my computer. Straight up does. I will go to a website, I'll click on something, and I'm thinking, I don't got time to wait for this. What can I do in these 9 seconds while I'm waiting for this page to load?
Yes.
And, so I'm thinking, this is stupid. Like, why this thing's doing this, I'll pop another tab up and I'll do something else. And then now I got 2 things going, and both of those are taking too much time, and I'll pop up a third thing. So and I've heard people say, absolutely not, you can't do that. I don't know. All I know is there are limits, and you can't go too far. One characteristic I will say of people that are ADD, in terms of just putting a label, on myself, as well, is we think that we can get 10 times more done in the same amount of time that it takes everybody else.
Yep.
I don't mean to think I'm trying to sound like I'm better than anybody else at all, but I'll just tell you, in my mind, I think I can do everything a lot faster than you can, or I can do everything a lot faster than it will take, which, by the way, means I will often procrastinate on things until the last possible freaking second and then try to get everything done all at one time. So that's my craziness in my mind. It's some of the things. And by the way, to make you depressed, in my opinion, it actually doesn't get better. I mean, I've been dealing with this for many, many years. You just learn to kind of to accept yourself a little bit, love yourself a little bit. Tell you, no, that's okay. Come back on task over here. Okay, you're not going to do that, or you are going to do this, and you find a way to get it done. That's what I would tell you.
That's awesome that you shared so much there that I think a lot of people can relate to. And I don't say squirrel, I say grasshopper. I say, come on, grasshopper, let's go back here, because my mind is here and it's there. And in fact, I was looking at my desktop right now as you were talking, and I don't even know, I've got about 40 tabs open. So yeah, always multitask.
The thing is, I can listen to everything that you're talking about, not miss a beat, and I can read the news at the same time.
It's so weird. Paper though, that's what I do. And it really helps me because, I mean, your brain is working, but to stay on task, and you'll go over there with your thoughts. And then if you do go over there, you're not finishing your task. So if you have paper handy all the time and you can write it down, then let it go. So very important. And the time chunking, you were right that you mentioned, especially for Facebook, but I use time chunking for many, many things that could potentially time you up. So
let me say this.
15 minutes or an hour, just to be realistic, even for my learning, because I would love to just totally absorb either in learning or in creating something. Yeah. So I have to time limit myself on those.
I think the biggest thing that you have in all of this, and I really, really, really want to hear what Jim has to say because he's so accomplished. Yeah. But, he's a year or two older than I am. He's many, many years older than you. But the thing that I think I was thinking about this the other day as I was driving home. I'm like, I got to dig out that Jason Cox momentum seminar that he did. And because I think that momentum is probably the single most important thing, like numero uno on your entire list is momentum, because it's all kind of about a feeling, and it's just, it depends. I mean, for everything, if you're going to go to the gym, if you're going to do whatever it is, you could say, well, be consistent and all those things like that. But it's all about just getting going. And then once you make a phone call, then it's so much easier to make a second one. And once you make it, it's so much easier, and you knock it right out. So I think momentum is the biggest thing that you can possibly do, is just give yourself some feeling. Organizing paper clips on your desk is not momentum. I'm sorry. It is not wiping things down and doing the dishes and stuff like that. It has to be revenue generating activities, which is going to be lead generation and follow-up, lead generation, follow-up, lead generation, follow-up. What are you doing? It's all that we do is we lead generate, we follow up, lead generate, follow up.
Absolutely. And on that note, and we should repost that momentum call. Yeah. And I know exactly where to get that link. We have it in a few places, which is good.
Some kind of pin. It's too bad we can't pin more than one thing or something like that.
I know. Yeah, but
it's we download it and put it in the Facebook page or something. That's a pure gold.
I'm pretty sure it's in the files, and then we can repost it and remind everybody where it is. But everybody should listen to that again if you haven't already. And that's what I do. Like when I'm doing my lead generation, to keep the momentum, whatever kind of lead generation I'm doing, which I do multiple strategies, I stay on that.
Yep.
Keep that momentum. When I schedule 3 times during the week that I do calls for follow-ups, like the phone calls, and 2 hours, because, the first 30 minutes, you're just kind of warming up. And then it's that in-between hour that, man, the calls just go smooth and my energy is in there.
You get good. You get really good too.
Really good. Yeah. And you're fixed in the right place. So your momentum is there and they can feel it. So momentum really.
When I started today, I talked to a few follow-up calls, and And I got off the phone, and then I had to go pick up my daughter at school, and I thought, God, I suck on the phone. Like, that really is like, I should be much better. Like, I suck. And then I had a little coffee, and then I had a good call, which led into another one, which led into another one.
Yeah, you have to put yourself in that right mindset. Absolutely. Jim, what are your thoughts on this topic?
Well, lots of them. Years ago, I read a book, and it made a statement that kind of rattled my cage. It said, structure brings freedom. And a lot of times when you hear that, you think, well, I don't really want to be structured. I don't want to be tied down. I don't want to have a schedule. I want to just do whatever I want. And that's the way most people live. Whoever's screaming the loudest gets your attention. And especially if you got little kids, a lot of the folks on the in our alliance here have a lot of little kids, and you got to go. Little Susie and little Janie's crying, and I got two little great grandbabies now, and it's funny watching them and being around them. And when they have a need, you got to go take care of it. But I found in my own personal life, especially we've been doing a lot of traveling in the last couple of months, and I've got about 3,000, 3,500 miles I've been traveling around, and my plan for my life is every morning at 5 o'clock to do water aerobics out at Langley Air Force Base. Well, if I'm not home, I don't do that, and here I'm sitting out here right by the pool. It's a few feet away, but we've been here for 3 days now, and I haven't been in the pool yet because I got away from that getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, which I normally do anyway, and going out to the base and doing my water aerobics. And so if I can structure my life, and like you talked about, you've got a certain amount of time to make your phone calls, and you can do it every day. Well, if I don't do that, if I don't set myself some time, then it doesn't get done. Next thing I know, I say, I'm the great procrastinator. Well, I'll do it tomorrow. And when I first got around you guys and started listening to Rob and Susan and Tammy, I got me a notebook, and I started writing all the things down that you said, and it took me 3 or 4 times to find out what humanizing a digital realm really meant. And I heard that the first time, I said, what in the world is he talking about? And now it's a regular part of my conversation. And people now look at me and say, what are you talking about? I say,
so now you can tell them.
Let me show you.
Makes you sound kind of smart, though, I think.
But we're learning all the time. And so one of the other things I found that's very interesting is accountability. That's something that I don't hear too many people talk about today, but I ask that of the people that I've brought into the business, and I don't get a whole lot of that back. Vicki is the one that she's moving along, and she got her first sale and working. She's bringing people to call, but she's accountable, and we talk almost every day, texting back and forth, and we start talking on Skype to each other, but she is accountable, and she tells me what she's doing, and I encourage her and they help her. And when she gets discouraged, which she doesn't get discouraged very often, because she just goes and gets some more people. If they didn't come in, and we've got 4 or 5 people out there hanging around, about ready to jump in. They're like a lot of folks that we know. They're all trying to find the money to come in and trying to figure out if they want to do this or not. But they're still hanging around. As long as people are still hanging around, you just keep gripping on it. But I got a couple other people that started out really great, but then I try to get a hold of them. I email them, I text them, I said, give me a call in a minute, let's talk. And they never call back. I say, well, SW next. Some will, some won't, so what next? And I'm there for them. They know I'm there for them. Everyone on my team knows that I'm there to help them, and they can pick up the phone and call me, or they can text me, and we can make some progress. And one of the verses I remember out of Proverbs 2 years ago was out of the Living Bible, says, reliable communication permits progress. And if you communicate with your people and let them know they can communicate back with you, then you're going to get a lot of things done. But it amazes me that we don't have 150 or 200 people on this mentoring deal, because And I could be watching the Dodgers game tonight if I wanted to. I could be playing on Facebook. Or people waste so much time on Facebook; it's unbelievable. One thing I've learned about Facebook people is they have about a minute and a half attention span. And if you send them anything longer than a minute or minute and a half, they'll never see it. Most of them never see it. It's just here today and gone tomorrow. And when I post certain things on the my Facebook page, and I can always tell who's going to repost some stuff. If I have a real long article about something political or something like that, I know there's 5 or 6 people I have that will always repost it because they're the people that take interest. The rest of people, they look down and say, well, that thing's too long. I'm going to go play, what's that crazy game they play, Candy Crush? people send me a link to go play Candy Crush. I said, man, I don't know what it is, but I don't want to try to get involved with it.
It's non-productive and time-consuming.
Oh, it is a waste of time. And my wife's son is 23 years old, and he's addicted to video games, and that's all he does with his life. And he's trying to go to college, but he just he spends a lot of time playing on that game and screaming and hollering at all the friends that he has on there, and it just consumed his life. And a lot of these kids coming up nowadays are doing that. And you try to find people that want to do a brick and mortar job like I had in the drywall business for years. It's hard to get people to come out and do the work. Most of the people in the drywall business around here in my town are 35, 40 years old. You see very, very few young 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids wanting to learn a trade. That's the way it is in all the trades. And the kids nowadays are not willing to get out and do it. They want to go out and play with their life. And so I guess the other thought I had was enthusiasm. You all know that I get enthusiastic about stuff. And Vince Lombardi came out with a deal years ago, said that enthusiasm is contagious. And if you're enthusiastic, then the people on your team, the people you contact with are there. And that's why I like the Tuesday and Thursday call with Rob. You're enthusiastic, man. You bubbling out all over the radio there, over the TV, whatever you call that thing. And when I think we all been involved with stuff down through the years where somebody tries to recruit you into something and they're reading from a script that says,
and you can kind of tell, can't you?
Yeah. Now, if you will turn to page 42 with something like that, I don't know. It's crazy. I got a lot of this stuff, but you all
one of our ladies, she's a lead that came into our funnel last April. So is that about 6 months ago? She's one of the ones I just regularly send to the Tuesday and Thursday calls that Rob does because on my very first follow-up call with her, she was interested. Now, there was just some circumstances and whatever. So just regularly invite her. And last night she sent a text back, said, I was on the call with Rob Hanley 6 months, So definitely consistency and keeping the momentum and all of that, and Rob's enthusiasm. All of those are pieces of why what we're doing works.
Yeah, most definitely. Follow up is the key, and I've got 150 people in my text file, and I haven't been doing a lot of while I've been traveling here, but as soon as I settle down a little bit, about half an hour to hour and a half before, I'll start picking out the ones I know who responded back to me, and I'll say, get on the call, and I'll always tell them, if you're still interested in financial security and you're still making some money, get on this call. If not, reply stop. Very, very few of them ever say stop, because when they signed up, they were broke, and now they're still broke. So stay with them, You never know how long it's going to take people.
Yeah, you don't.
Come in. Yeah. So.
Until they say stop, you just never give up. Just be consistent. One of the other words, of course, these are my notes, right? They're just doodles on here. But one of the other words I've written on here, or whatever points, is growth doesn't just happen either. So it's something that you plan. You plan on growing, and you make an intention on growing and being better, or expanding your business, or whatever it is. If you want more members, then you figure out what more you have to do. If you want more money, you figure out what works to do it, and then make that happen. And a good book that's actually being studied right now, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, has a lot to do with this topic and the focus. Creating harmony between doing, learning, growing, and which parts of that will affect your money-making activities.
That's good. That's a good nugget.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. A book I ordered today, actually, I got from the Alliance, as a matter of fact. It was one of my little notes while I was reading. And I ordered, I heard Joe mention it. On Joe's morning call, he mentions a lot of good stuff.
Doesn't he?
Yeah, I'm looking up on Amazon here to see what it was. It was, I think, called let's see here, The 4 Laws of Spiritual Prosperity. And he was mentioning somebody, everybody always likes so the 4 Laws of Spiritual Prosperity. It looks like I think I spent, $11 for a used copy on Amazon. I like to buy my books used. But one of the things that he mentioned was, he said that he knew somebody that had been flat broke and blah, 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 blah. And I don't know, a year and a half later, and he said, what did you attribute it to? And they said, I read that book. And he goes, one of the things that's interesting in that book, biblical principle, is the principle of tithing, of actually giving away 10% to to something. So in the Christian church, from the Bible, you're supposed to give away, not to get into a theological thing, but you're supposed to give away 10% of your income. And but whatever your deal is, maybe it's Habitat for Humanity, or maybe whatever it might be, but it makes sense kind of in the whole woo-woo new kind of thought kind of thing, that that the whole idea is, all around us right now, there's money circulating everywhere, all around. It's really interesting for me, actually, going through the recession. I remember the financial crisis. Our company did really, really well for the first couple of few years. It wasn't until the end things started to taper off a little bit. And but I remember thinking to myself and having this analogy in my mind. It's kind of like there's a storm and all these boats have kind of sunk out there, and there's people like the Titanic in the water, help, help. And there's obviously arguments to be made about how the economy really is right now and things like that. But I think just from because you go to the store and things are more expensive, and the cereal is small. You ever notice the cereal and the ice cream and stuff are smaller boxes? I just hate the whole idea that somebody's trying to put something past me. I really bothers.
And the bags of chips are the same size, but there's less chips in the bag.
There's less chips. I look at like a box of Triscuits, and I'm like, I know that thing was bigger when I was a kid. Like, for sure, it was a lot bigger. Ice cream now, it looks like, I'm thinking that used to be like what I'm trying to think of the decadent ice cream, Haagen-Dazs or something. Remember that when that came out in the 80s, like a little bitty thing?
Yeah, now they're wee.
Yeah, a regular thing of ice cream, like there's a thing of ice cream. Now it's like this, but I think to myself, it turns, see, there goes the whole squirrel thought process. Bring it back.
Come back, squirrel.
I think to myself, I go, back then I would think everybody is kind of floundering, but now it seems like, most people have money now. When I went to the grocery store yesterday, there's a sign on the door and it said hiring checkers and this and this and this. That did not happen in the recession. It did not happen. So they're hiring people, and it's probably here in my neighborhood, checker probably makes 18 or 19 bucks an hour. I bet you it's 16 bucks or something like that. So I look at it and I think money's cycling all around. It's actually moving. So to come back to the book here, is the whole concept of this is, you can't be financially constipated. You can't be like you just bring everything in and then there's just nothing. The whole idea is everything is always is flowing.
Fluid.
Or or from a biblical thing, I was telling my daughter, not to be all spirit, whatever, is that you're blessed. My daughter is all about, like, she wants to be a billionaire. She wants to have a $6,000 Gucci backpack. And why can't you have 200 pairs of shoes? One of my sons, his friend, the dad owns 3% of Amazon. That's where I live. I mean, I live in Seattle. The father owns 3% of Amazon.com. They're uber wealthy. And the kid's 14. He's got 200 pairs of tennis shoes. And my daughter's 13.
How can you wear 200 pairs of tennis shoes?
She goes, why can't you? Well, why can't you? Now, I don't want to be like, oh, you could never have that. You could never do that. That's wrong. But I want to also, because I think that the first thing is like, hey, that's okay. You want to have you want to have a Gucci backpack and spend $6,000? Why not? They make them. I mean, somebody buys them. Why can't you have one? On the other hand is, you don't need 200 pairs of shoes. So then I have the conversations about blessing and giving to other people. And what if you were to give to a bunch of Africans or something like that? Or you would have paid for somebody's something or another that would help overall, something that is lasting. So I know I'm getting a little bit more philosophical, but the whole challenge, the whole thing that I learned from some of these things is stuff like, oh, wow, I would think I learned about tithing in church, but the whole idea that, oh, yeah, you know what, as you're giving, then it kind of comes back. Plus you expect it too, because you feel like I'm kind of all paid up, like I'm due. Whatever your religious or spiritual bent is, you think, I give and it comes back to me, type of thing. So.
Yeah, and I think that also creates like energy momentum as well, like the flow, the movement, there's activity.
Yep.
Definitely. Welcome, Karen. How are you doing? Oh, you're still muted. Hang on.
Oh.
Okay, now you're
Hi,
unmuted.
everybody. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Nice to be here. Wow. I feel like I went to Timbuktu for a few months, and now I'm returning.
Good. Well, welcome on your return.
Good topics. You were sharing, Rob, about that book. Joe was pushing that book heavily last year, and there was a large group of us that read it almost together. I actually read it twice. I do love it. And the thing about the tithing, coming from a background of tithing in church, I used to think that's what it was all about, just church related. And it's not. It's about anything you want to donate to, including, there's a suggestion in that chapter that if someone touched your life in a special way, a friend, anybody, that's the person you give something to. And you preface it with, you helped me change, you touched my life in a really special way. I want to give you this. And I tried it once with a close friend who was having some financial issues, and we gave her and her husband a gift card to go out to dinner together because they never do much of that.
Nice.
And you better think we gave them $1 million. It was just so special to be able to do that. So fabulous book. I love that book. It's one of those you could read like once a year and get something new out of it. There's a lot in there.
Nice.
And then you were mentioning, I think I came in a little late and you were talking, oh, hi, Mark. I came in a little bit late and you were talking about being structured. And I'm like, uh-oh, I think I better say goodbye. But I make a deal with myself. There's a part of me that never wants to be structured. I kind of call her my little girl. And she wants to come out and play more often than she really needs to come out and play. So I have to be the mama once in a while. And I make these deals with myself. Like if I stay structured on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, then I let her come out and do whatever she wants to do. And, you talk about moving the paper clips around the desk. Well, for me, it's papers. There's lots of times papers everywhere. And recently, while I was going to surgery, recovering from surgery, I had 2 huge financial reports due, and I got caught. And all 3 deadlines were just about on the same day. So there were stacks of paper everywhere on the floor and the tabletops and the dressers and couch pillows, wherever I could find room to stack them. And so real big lesson on, okay, say somebody wants to know the utilities, and I had to fight with myself to stay on task. Only look at the papers that relate to utilities. And I would want to go off in this direction, and and here's a webinar coming, in 2 hours, and I think I'll pull my notes out from last month, and I mean, it can get crazy. So I made myself stay with it, one like eating an elephant, one bite at a time. And then for me, the follow-up is, and I call it freaky or OCD or geeky or whatever you want, but if I can put the papers away related to the project I just finished in a nice file, and I'll have fun because it might be a polka dot folder or red or blue, and I make it fun. And so what I do is and I'm not always in those moods, but I know when they hit. Nobody else does, and I'm in trouble when they hit. So I make myself stay real structured, and then I give myself permission to go off and play. And it may be planting some flowers. It may be going to the library, work on a puzzle for 2 hours and not tell anybody because I should be home making phone calls. But I tell you, doing that puzzle activity totally relaxes me, totally takes my mind off this, and this, and I come back rejuvenated. So I think what we're striving for is a balance. We each know ourselves pretty well by now, and we know what makes us tick. We know what makes us anxious. We know what makes us calm down, and we got to do all those things in a very fine balancing act. And that's what we have an obligation to learn, and that's what we have an obligation to teach and help others with when we get to know people and know what really makes them tick. We can see what they're doing, how they're spinning wheels before they can often. So we have to find a gentle, instructive, helpful way to reel them back in. And I have a couple people who do that for me, and they do it very well. And so I try to pass it on. So, but I really thought, as soon as you were talking about that, I thought, I better leave the show. I don't know if I have much to say here.
You have a lot. You added a lot of value, absolutely a lot of value. And it does start with being aware and knowing ourselves, doesn't it?
And then you have to make a decision. You really have, you can spin those wheels for 5 weeks, 5 years, 20 years, or you can say, hey, are you in the same spot where you were 5 years ago? If so, why? And you're the only one that can undo that. You can listen to all the webinars in the world. You can come on all the Zooms you want to go to. But if you don't make the decision to change what you need to know needs changing, and if you don't know how to change, then you get some help. And that's abundant. So
absolutely.
It's a big world.
We could spend 10 years completely learning, but unless we take the action points, we're not going to change anything. So yeah, we definitely have to find harmony in the amount of learning and action points. And I love that you talked about breaks. I have to let the little girl play on a regular basis as well. So I use those as rewards,
Yes. Yes.
If this, then that. And if this, then that. Oh, you can't do that until you do this. And then you're free.
I do the same thing.
Whatever works. Jim, you have your hand up. Did you have a point you wanted to jump in on?
Yeah, I agree with Rob about giving, and it's not only giving to your Christian ministries or whatever you feel like you give to, but I was thinking the other day that in giving back to the team of people that we have recruited into our business, it really pays off. And again, I bring up Vicki because she's so appreciative because she was involved with some other business and got no support from anybody. And she just tells everybody, I'm the greatest sponsor in the world. And I've got a young man in India. His name is Rajna Kumar, and I have been giving to him for several years. And he goes around small villages in India, shows the Jesus film, and we talk on a Facebook Messenger and sometimes on the phone almost every day. And it's a real great sense of fulfillment when we see these people and we see how some of them live in the grass huts and the places they live over there, and yet I'm able to take a little bit and help them with that. And it's a great sense of fulfillment to me. And about 50 years ago, I memorized a verse out of Luke 6 that says, "Given it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over shall men give unto you." And I found that when I applied that to my principle, my business, when I started in 1971, when I got out of the Air Force, and I began to, as my business started out very small, and I built it, I began to increase my giving, and God prospered it, and I, built 3 businesses into $1 million enterprises. And I went through some tough times in my life, some personal things that happened, and I continued to try to give, and sometimes I didn't have the money to give that I used to give when my business was going like crazy. But I strongly believe in it, and it's a scriptural principle. Even whether you believe the Bible or not, it's given, it should be given. You try it, and if it doesn't work, you call me up, and I'll say we'll talk about it.
I agree. It's very important to give somehow, some way, a portion of whatever it is you have to give.
I used to have a little mantra. One of my favorite books is Think and Grow Rich. I mention it a lot when I do my calls. It's when we do the Call to Freedom call. That kind of leads into the whole alliance thing, It's a nice segue. And Napoleon Hill, who, if you haven't read Think and Grow Rich,
Read it.
Really like 101 for an entrepreneur. Actually, it was quite difficult for me to read that actually many years ago. But now I pick it up and I read something like that. It's like kind of spending time with an old friend. But in one of the books that Napoleon Hill wrote, he wrote about a guy. He wrote obviously a lot about Andrew Carnegie, but he also wrote about a guy named, I'll think about it in a second here. He got $1 million bonus back, and this would have been probably 1920. You're talking about $1 million. This is like somebody, and he had been a poor guy, and he said people would say about him that he was hard. When he worked in the steel mills and stuff like that, and he started out as a steel mill worker, and he got a $1 million bonus again, which would have been probably $100 million or something like that. And he said he's hardy in his approbation, big in his approbation, and he was lavish in his praise. And so there was something that either I read there or I created a mantra in my brain that I would repeat over and over, which actually does fit probably an ADD kind of brain because I can do multiple things and have a tape running on my brain. And it was, I see the best in people. I bring out the best in people. I shine a light on it. So I see the best in people. I bring out the best in people, and I shine a light on it. And so this is what everybody is really looking for. Is looking for affirmation. They're looking for actually not affirmation. They're looking for appreciation, for somebody to recognize you and to go, yeah, I see that. I know who you are. And they starve for it. So in terms of giving, I was watching a video today of a friend of mine, and he had done an interview with somebody, and he's not like a professional interviewer, but he's really good. And I just thought I'd call him up and just go, man, badass. That was really, really good. And you'd think you just gave a glass of water to somebody who was really, really thirsty. So your giving doesn't always have to be financial. I'm looking forward to the book to find out. I'm sure that is the context. But you want to always be in the mindset of how can you add value and give overall to people. What can you say to somebody that they're going to go, wow, yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, wow. You want to be that kind of person. And when you're that kind of a person and you're focused on other people and recognizing other people, blessing other people, and being intentional on stuff, you're going to find that it's not like an act. Even if at first it does kind of feel like an act, eventually it becomes part of you. And then after a while, people start naturally coming to you because it's like thirsty people coming to a well. They could just get more, and so that's kind of what I look to do as much as I possibly can. And obviously we all do, or we wouldn't be in the same room.
Yeah, there's a lot of generosity in the people that come and stay in this community. So that's something that everybody has in common. Good point. And welcome, Mark. What are your thoughts on the topic?
Hello. uh, do me one favor. I have a habit of rambling on, so if I get off topic, please stop me.
Well, you're probably the last speaker because we're almost at the top of the hour. So perfect.
Okay, and now I forgot what I was going to say.
Sorry.
It's okay. Basically, when I find myself on the overwhelmed, I know I have to take a step back. Sometimes some of the training that I watch gets a little confusing because you got one person telling me, do it this way, and then you go to another trainer and they say, no, don't do it that way, do it this way. And it's like, okay, what do I take? Which one? Do I take a little of both of them? Do I listen to this one? Do I listen to that one? And then, it sort of deters me a little bit.
Yes. So that's one point of reference, or really looking for and seeking a specific mentor, or maybe a few specific mentors that are your reference point, is sometimes a good idea. Especially if we're on certain learning curves, we hit different places, right? So, and there's always certain pivot points where you're going to have to really scale up, and you'll have a big chunk of extra learning, and it's a steeper learning curve. And so if we're listening to too many different people, especially in this industry, and I know Rob can collaborate with that, you're going to hear some conflicting points of reference and ideas and strategies. And so you have to choose one and shut the other one off, because it will take a lot of extra brain space and energy trying to sort, okay, which one. So if you ever have two conflicting paths or learning strategies or methods, just make a choice and shut one off, and just don't torture yourself with that. That's my really kind of strong. Could I emphasize that a little bit more? But yeah, don't confuse yourself. Choose one, trust, and listen to that path.
And as for recommended reading, this has been my favorite book, Traveler's Gift.
That's a very good book.
I did.
Nice recommendation.
You also pushed this book on me, so you have.
Nice.
Yes.
And I actually won it in a contest. So as soon as I finished that, I'm in the middle of reading a Dale Carnegie book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living.
Great one. I'm into that one.
Yeah, I didn't read that one fully. Sometimes I skim books. I don't know if you guys do, but I speed read and I kind of skim them. That's what I did with that one. Not that it wasn't a good book, but it was just that was the time frame that I was in during that.
That one I have an Audible, so I'm listening on Audible.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Does anybody else have any closing thoughts? What good input. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Never fails. There's always so much to add to the topic.
Good to see you, Karen.
Thanks, Mark.
No closing thoughts? What? We're exactly at the top of the hour.
I went over my quota, so
this was a topic I wanted to listen to. So
I'm so glad that you came out, Mark. Do you think it helped?
Helped a little bit.
It's kind of mingling in, and it helped a little bit.
Rubbing around the brain, it'll get there.
I heard some giggles.
I learned how to adapt the way I'm doing things the last 4 months. The way I'm selling things, the way I used to sell things, the way I learned 4 years ago is not the way you do it now. So I've been trying to brand myself even more.
I had a sale today. Kind of happy about that.
What's that?
So I had a sale today. It was kind of cool.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh,
High
great.
five.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Somebody else yesterday tell me they're coming in next week, so that was nice. Had another guy.
Nice.
Another guy's looking to come in the next. So things are cranking. There's a lot of nice momentum, and
this is good.
Tell people, bring people to the calls that we're doing. All the stuff that we're doing works out well. It's a really simple process. I guess to kind of look to start to bring this home, you usually do, but I'll give you a little hand on it, is just bear in mind, we talk like mindset kind of stuff like that. Is the only difference between any of us and somebody that's brand new on here is just a little bit more time and probably a few more headaches and learning like, oh yeah, probably I shouldn't do that. It's not a good thing to do, but keep in mind, this is a really simple process. The group that we have here is very unique, that there is a real spirit of people wanting to help each other that's in here. Enjoy each other, but very simple process. Generate a lead, follow up with somebody, and then, let them decide. Nobody's really so much into selling or convincing or explaining, but, show people, generate a lead, get found by somebody, take them to some kind of presentation, follow up, and then see. This is the whole humanizing the digital experience that we have here. And fancy words for just kind of saying like, yeah, we take a minute to actually connect with people and let them know, yeah, hey, I'm a real person. That alone will put you probably 90 ahead of probably 90 out of 100 people. Just the mere fact that you're actually going to follow up. And by the way, Jim laid a little nugget in there where he talked about that he texts people. I like to text people too, by the way. And I continue to text people until as long as they reply, I could, because it's not like it's even a conscious thing. I just kind of forget. And if I come across somebody, even if it's been months, maybe they fell off the earth, I'll send them a thing. Hey, just want to make sure you're still alive or something like that. And a lot of times, man, they'll re-engage. It's all about kind of developing a relationship. People want to know that you understand who they are. It's all about building trust. Yeah. So I just say really simple to do, simple not to do. Momentum's key.
Absolutely. And what'll keep you here and what keeps you coming is the people, the accountability, the consistency, and conversations like this. This is how we give back to each other and to the community, because we show up here.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, everybody. And I guess we'll see you next Wednesday.
Thank you.
You guys.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.